Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I am spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Sette. As always, I am grateful for this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we're looking to the month of November 2024. We've got 2 months left of this most auspicious year, and the energies of November certainly can be intensified and very much heightened. Whenever we offer our insights on anything, we will always address how to counteract anything that might seem to be negative. Remember, when we're understanding how to work with the energy, with the cycles of nature, with the astrological cycles, because everything astrologically, it's really about cycles. Everything is cyclical. And when we understand how to properly work with the energy, we empower ourselves to counteract any potential negative influence. Remember, everything astrologically, yes, it's cyclical, but it also has a high vibration and a low vibration. Even when something is conventionally taught to be adverse, like an adverse aspect, it does have a positive influence to it. Positive, negative, negative, low vibration, positive, high vibration. And wherever it is that we are directing our attention during a certain time when an astrological configuration comes together, that's what we're going to bring to form. If we're directing our attention towards the lower vibrational end of those astrological potentialities, that's what we bring to form. If we direct our attention towards the higher vibration, that's what we bring to form. So when we talk about energies being intensified and heightened, we have to be abundantly aware to keep ourselves anchored and grounded with the energy of the earth. I always use the analogy of an oak tree, a massive oak tree. Look how the root system of that oak tree goes deep into the ground, into the soil, into the earth. Sometimes the root system is twice as large as the tree. So that when the winds of change come along, which they certainly are upon us, we will bend and not break. I've also said for many years, be mindful of being in the world and not of it. Observe what goes on in the outside world and do not allow yourself to absorb any of those low vibrational energies. Remember, there are blessings and higher vibrational potentials in anything. We just need to understand how to work with the energy. There is a theme I'm noticing as I'm looking at some of these influences in November, and it's really about one, self-empowerment. The sign Scorpio, which we go into November into the sign Scorpio. The sun will change into Sagittarius on the 21st. I will address that in a moment. But the Scorpio energy on a high vibration is very much about self-empowerment. On the low vibration is when that Scorpio element tries to control and disempower another. That's a low vibration of the Scorpio. Scorpio is also about bringing to form, manifestation, actually, and allowing ourselves to receive and welcome the fruit of our labor. Scorpio is about return on investments. During this month, allow yourself to welcome the return on whatever it is you may have invested upon, whether it be yourself personally, a professional matter, whatever that might be. We need to allow ourselves to be in that place of receiving. If we're always in motion of generating the energy of sending it forth, I say that there are times when we need to be the transmitter, and there are moments where we need to be the receiver. If we're always transmitting, we're not receiving. So to keep that in mind, to possibly shift some energies within yourself as we move through this month. Now, our new moon will be on November 1st. So I will always address the cycle of experience prior to the new moon that provides us with the opportunity to energetically prepare for the new moon, and that's the balsamic moon phase. That's the very last phase cycle of the of the lunar cycle. And the balsamic moon phase begins on October 28th at exactly 5 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That is the opportunity to energetically prepare for the coming lunar cycle, which begins on the new moon. It's the dark moon. It's a time of clearing, cleansing, releasing, and begin to think about what seeds you would like to plant at the time of the new moon. Now, our new moon is on November 1st, and the exact time of the new moon is 8:47 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And also keep in mind, remember that on Sunday, November 3rd, at 2 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, we fall back. We change the clocks and go backwards 1 hour. We're still on daylight time on November 1st. Again, November 1st, 8:47 a.m. And the new moon is in the sign of Scorpio. And again, I'm just reiterating the Scorpio element, self-empowering, empowering yourself. Also recognizing and understanding the ability that every one of us has the potential to bring to form and manifest our greatest desires. Scorpio is very much about manifestation. It's also about transformation. Many times when we are enduring a transformational experience, it is very difficult. And I always, the best analogy and metaphor that we can use with the transformation is when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. That process, that metamorphosis, that transformation, it's a very difficult, daunting process. And look at the end result of that experience. Even when the butterfly emerges from that cocoon, it's difficult, it's daunting, it's challenging. However, it's a necessary experience for that butterfly to adequately and properly prepare its wings. So when it's emerging from that cocoon, that whole process of breaking away from that sheath that covers it is preparing the wings to be of greater service for that butterfly. So yes, and what I'm emphasizing is it's a very difficult, daunting process. However, it serves a greater purpose. And what I'm suggesting to recognize is every one of us has the ability, one, to bring to form our greatest desires, and to manifest, that ability to manifest as manifestation. Scorpio is about manifestation that many times will come about after a transformation. If you are going through a particularly difficult time right now, allow yourself to be shown, or rather ask Spirit, what is necessary for you to continually embrace that will serve a higher, greater purpose for you and allow you to transform with grace and ease. Scorpio, I understand and recognize actually Scorpio is the sign of one who can potentially be a very powerful healer. But Scorpio contends with the spirit realm and the energy that we process from the spirit realm. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, as well as it's got a co-ruler. It's also ruled by Mars, Pluto and Mars, which I'm going to talk about something that's coming up with Pluto and Mars in a few moments. Pluto is said to be the higher octave, higher vibration of Mars. Mars is so much about energy, but Pluto is really about taking that energy, embracing that energy, harnessing that energy, and transforming that energy, as well as transmuting any lower vibrational discordant energies. So that being said, if you're finding yourself, because many are releasing low level, dark, heavy, discordant energies, but also too, that Scorpio element, as I said, is about healing. Universally, there is an intensified transformation and healing that is taking place right now. My suggestion to anyone who this might resonate with, if in your moments of meditation, allow yourself, one, to really permit yourself to experience perhaps a very necessary healing experience in whatever form that might be, but also two, project that energy of healing towards the earth and the entirety of humanity. Because as I said, there's going to be some intensified energies coming through in November as well as going into December. And remember, when we understand how to work with the energy, we counteract any potential negative influences that can come about regarding the experiences. That Scorpio new moon, it has such an auspicious aspect from Saturn. Saturn anchors. Saturn is about stability. This understanding of this process of transformation, as well as empowerment. We need that stability in order to properly for anchor that energy, but also to direct the energy. If we're scattered all over the place, then we can't really harness that energy in a way that will serve a greater purpose. This a very strong influence from Saturn is allowing us to really anchor this power within ourselves. You know, it was, I believe, if I remember correctly, in 2013 when there was a significant Pluto aspect to the astrological charts of the United States, where everyone in the United States, on a personal level, really was given the opportunity, was the beginnings of the opportunity of really recognize how we all have this power within ourselves. And again, it's not to disempower another. When if we're trying to disempower another, control another, inflict our thoughts and beliefs on another, that's that less than Scorpio energy. But when we empower ourselves, we, as I've always said, we become the master of our destiny, and we harness this energy, and we direct the energy so it serves a greater purpose, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. Remember, the more that you're allowing yourself to be in a high vibrational place, certainly we benefit from it personally, but others benefit from it as well. You know, and that Scorpio energy element, I said, again, as I said, it contends with the spirit realm, the spirit energy, those frequencies that will either serve a greater purpose or perhaps interfere with our wellness. Maintain a higher vibrational place within yourself. And one simple way of doing that is every day, in every moment of every day, be in that place of gratitude. In the new moon chart, we also have Scorpio rising. So once again, that Scorpio element, that power, that self-empowerment, that recognition of the ability to manifest is very much being anchored with these Scorpion energies. The Scorpio element also contend with some very dark energy. And as I always say as well, regardless of how ominous or how dark something might seem, remember, it has no power over us unless we're allowing that element to have that power over us. You know, in order to rise above any challenge, difficult, dark energy, we need to observe it. We need to shine the light upon it. And throughout humanity, many of our lights are becoming very, very bright. That's why we're observing there seems to be a lot more darkness in the world. The darkness that we're observing, it's always been there. However, more of us are shining our light upon that darkness. And in these few months, we need to intensify and amp up that light and allow it to be as bright as possible, always from a place of love. Remember, everything we endeavor upon, we always suggest, have the intention of being in that place of love, unconditional love, and then we serve a greater purpose, not only for ourselves, but for the all of humanity. And as I said, the new moon, November 1st, 8:47 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now, on November 15th, I touched upon Saturn a little bit before. On November 15th, Saturn has been retrograde. Saturn will move direct on November 15th, and the exact time of that is 9:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturn has been transiting the sign of Pisces. Pisces is a very karmic sign. Saturn is very much a karmic planet. And when I refer to karma, karma isn't necessarily reward and punishment as most of us know and understand and to believe. However, karma refers to a balancing of energy. Saturn brings balance wherever there may be imbalances. That's what karma is about. It's just creating a balance. It's not reward or punishment. It's creating a balance. Saturn is what's referred to as being exalted in the sign of Libra, which very much contends and represents balance. A planet is said to be exalted when it is in the sign where it can demonstrate its greatest ability and greatest quality. It's been a while since Saturn has been in Libra, just offhand, probably maybe about 12, 13, 14 years. However, Saturn is continuing its passage through Pisces, which there's an intensified karmic clearing that's happening in the outside world. So to assist that process, once more, we inspire everyone to be in that place of perfect love and perfect trust. The Saturn retrograde was also assisting us in becoming, or rather reflecting on our long-term goals, because Saturn is about long-term goals. It's also about our career and our profession. So whenever a planet goes retrograde, its energies are redirected more towards within the self and not necessarily the outside world. So with Saturn retrograde, it's an opportunity to really reflect on your long-term goals. And as it moves direct, you allow yourself to be guided as to how to assist the process in moving forward with those long-term goals. And on a personal level, we really have to look specifically to see where a planetary cycle is taking place in our astrological charts to understand how to work with it more on a personal level. I'm giving you just a general overall understanding, and always, certainly we can meet and we discuss the astrological influences specifically when we consult one-on-one, but just also too, whenever I share all of this, just allow yourself to resonate or recognize where perhaps you might need to do this on a personal level. Spirit will always let you know what is best for you. We just need to allow ourselves to understand how to recognize and clearly listen and hear what Spirit is sharing with us. And I always said, in order to do that, we need to allow ourselves to be clear in our being, anchored and grounded with the energies of the earth. Now, I jumped ahead a little bit. And what I wanted to emphasize was, I referred to earlier, there's an auspicious alignment, a unique alignment with Pluto and Mars that's taking place. And there's an opposition between Pluto and Mars occurring, and that's specifically on November 3rd at 6:37 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The opposition alignment are when two elements are directly opposed one another, just like the sun and moon are at a full moon. When two elements oppose one another, it intensifies the energy. The opposition, which is a full moon alignment, it brings to form whatever has been going on energetically prior to that. Like, for example, generally at a full moon, there's the manifestation of whatever may have begun on the new moon. And again, that's just a very simple general term just to give you an understanding. However, Mars, about every 2 years, this alignment with Mars and Pluto will form, because Mars cycles of experience are 2-year cycles, about 2-year cycles of experience. However, what's extraordinary about this specific Mars-Pluto opposition is that it's occurring at the critical late degree of 29 degrees. Now, astrologically, everything is measured in degrees and minutes. And you see, there are so many facets to arriving at conclusions on an astrological level. And in part of one of those many multitude of elements is the placement where it is located along the zodiac, specifically the degree of the location. Now, the late degree, the signs are measured in 30 degrees. A sign is 30 degrees. Now, the late degree, which is begins about 27, 28, but 29 is what's referred to as a late critical degree. And when that point is energized, it indicates there will be a significant turning point. The last time Mars opposed Pluto, it wasn't at this late degree, and I couldn't tell you offhand when it occurred last. However, we also have to factor in everything else that's going on. But what I'm emphasizing is that this is bringing about a culmination of much intense energy that needs to be released. We may see some unsettlement going on in the outside world. A lot of, when we're not understanding how to really work with the energy, sometimes we we can become very erratic in our actions and our behaviors. And we're noticing a lot of that in the outside world right now, because those who are not aware of what's going on an energy level aren't necessarily able to properly contend with the energy. And by that being said, it doesn't mean someone's doing something right or wrong. It all serves a greater purpose on our spiritual journey. However, if you're hearing these words, there's no accident when we come together, whether it be in a private consultation, in the group setting, or even on these platforms. If you're hearing these words, it's really spirit that brought you to this place. So what I'm always suggesting is recognizing, one, how spirit is guiding you and how spirit is sharing with you this information. As always, I digress a little bit, but what I'm emphasizing is this intensified energy with this Mars-Pluto opposition, which can potentially bring some unsettled energy in the outside world. However, and as I said earlier, when we're allowing ourselves to be in the world and not of it, we counteract any of the negative influences that may befall us with a certain planetary cycle. So allow yourself, once again, be grounded as much as you possibly can with the energies of the earth. Employ whatever tools resonate with you to clear your energy field, to keep you free of any of that etheric discord and imbalances, but also understand how to work with energy to keep yourself shielded and protected from any of the imbalances of the outside world. And again, remember, this is all about empowering yourself, really understanding now how to work with these universal energies that are have always been designed for our benefit, so that we can really create what we truly desire to create, and not what sometimes I refer to as miscreate. When we're not properly working with these energies, that's when we miscreate, and sometimes we bring things to form that are not necessarily what it is that we choose and desire to experience. Now, our next full moon will be on November 15th, and the exact time of the full moon is 4:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, the full moon is in the sign of Taurus. Taurus deals with the creature comforts, financial abundance. Going back to what I said earlier, our abilities to bring to form and manifest our greatest desires. With this full moon in the sign, which most represents finances, financial matters, and all things monetary, it's an opportunity to embrace and enjoy financial abundance, which every one of us, by our birthright, has been designed to enjoy. When we talk about abundance, remember, and I've said this quite often, when we refer to abundance, the first thing many of us think about is financial abundance. However, there's abundance in all areas of life. Just look in the outside world. There is abundance in the blades of grass, abundance in the drops of water, abundance in the molecules of air, the leaves of grass. There's abundance everywhere. Sometimes we have to be aware that we inadvertently create abundance in lack. That's something that we're not always aware of, because we can always create an abundance in the area of lack. When we set forth to create abundance, we have to be very clear with our thoughts and in our intentions that we're not miscreating. But this full moon in the sign of Taurus and the creature comforts, allow yourself to really embrace and welcome, because the full moon culminates and brings to form and manifests, welcome the blessings of financial abundance in your life, as well as enjoying all the other creature comforts that we're really designed to enjoy. And there's such a favorable aspect with that planet of manifestation, Pluto, to the full moon. The full moon is also right next to the sign of Uranus. So that being said, Uranus brings about great shifts and great change. It also can indicate periods of intensified chaos. Chaos will always precede great change. But again, it doesn't mean that we need to have any challenges or difficulties with those experiences. The winds of change are very intense right now, and many of it is contending with Uranus that brings about great change. But Uranus is also about awakenings and awareness and heightened understanding about humanitarianism, about brotherhood. All of that is really, we're all being inspired to recognize how we're all humanitarians, how we have the power and the ability and the potential to bring forth great change in the outside world. I've been saying for many, many years that we have to really allow ourselves to be the change that we would choose to desire to see in the outside world, and not give our power to another to bring forth that change. The more that we give away our power, we're just not recognizing that we are in control of our lives. We're giving that power away. When we're empowering ourselves, we recognize that we are the master of our destiny and bringing to form some of our greatest desires. And as I've been saying, the winds of change can be very, very intense in these coming times. But remember, when we work with the energy, when we redirect the energy towards the light and something much more auspicious, then we can counteract any of the potential negative influences that sometimes come about when we're not comfortable with change. Remember, change fortifies creativity as well as growth. When we allow ourselves to really go with the flow, welcome the change, we grow and we enjoy heightened levels of creativity and the imagination. Now, on November 17th, Pluto will begin its full passage of Aquarius. Pluto went back into Capricorn. I think it was in the spring or late summer. It will begin its full force passage of Aquarius on November 17th. This passage of Pluto going into Aquarius is what's going to catapult humanity into the new age and into the age of Aquarius. Now, it's speculated as to when the actual age of Aquarius will begin. By my personal calculations, it's not until about 2165. And it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy a time of humanitarianism and brotherhood. It doesn't mean that we have to wait, because most of us aren't going to be around in 2165. It was in the 1960s when, and I always highlight the song, began the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And that occurred because of specific alignments with Pluto and Uranus that took place at that time, especially the mid-1960s. Those of us who were born in the mid-1960s, some of us have the greatest potential to assist in facilitating this ushering in of this new age. Pluto going into Aquarius, wherever Pluto transits, it transforms. Aquarius represents, among many things, science, spirituality, metaphysics, as well as astrology. All those realms will be dramatically transformed as Pluto begins transiting the sign. When they will occur, it's dependent upon how Pluto will be influenced by other factors. Remember, Pluto takes about 20 years to go through a sign. Sometimes it goes a little bit quicker. For example, Pluto, when it moved into Capricorn in 2008, it was about 16 years. So it's not always at 20 years. It's dependent upon its retrograde, how long it will be in a sign. But Pluto will be in Aquarius for about 20 years, so it is about 2044 before it moves into the sign of Pisces. But what I'm emphasizing is how Pluto transforms wherever it passages. The signs, the areas of science, for example, will dramatically change. We're actually going to be shown what we haven't been shown regarding science, and what has been kept from us regarding science, and how, for one, science and spirituality are really one and the same. They're not separate. We're actually taught science and spirituality to be separate to keep us in a compromised state of really understanding the power of our beings. Another area that will transform with Pluto going into Aquarius is the realm of astrology. I first began my study of astrology in the mid-1980s. I first began on my own, and then I began working with instructors. So I'm formally trained as an astrologer. And I've been noticing that for one, I've allowed, even though I'm conventionally trained as an astrologer, I've allowed myself to really embrace my own understanding of how all this works in the planetary energies, and not to discredit the sages who have gone before me, but I've really allowed myself to really have my own unique understanding of all of this. And for quite a while now, I've been feeling that it's almost like we've been working with half a deck, I feel like, with astrology. I believe that there's much more to this realm than we've been conventionally taught. And I believe Pluto going into the sign that most represents astrology will bring about new information that perhaps has maybe been kept hidden from us or that we're not aware of. Like, for example, prior to Pluto was discovered in 1939. So prior to that, we didn't know that Pluto was there, and prior to that, we weren't aware of Neptune being there. Although perhaps in some realms they may have had this understanding. I've always, well, not always, within the last maybe, I don't know, 12 years or so, maybe a little bit more, I began thinking how perhaps there are actually three more what we refer to as planets, but are more higher dimensional, interdimensional planets that transcend or go beyond the realms of Pluto. Pluto still is very much an active element, even though it was declassified, which my understanding that was done to really just lead us to believe that astrology is discredited. And if we remember a few years back, there was the debacle of a 13th sign, which there was much misinformation that was presented regarding that, because they were, you see, there's what's known as the tropical zodiac, which when we construct astrological charts, that's the zodiac system that we use. And then there is the sidereal zodiac. For example, if you look at the constellations, which the constellations and the signs are also two very different things. The constellations deal with the sidereal zodiac. The signs deal with the tropical zodiac. With the passage of the sun through the signs is measured by the equinox, as well as the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. That's where that tropical zodiac term came from. And the position of the sun is measured by those points, and it equally divides that passage through the year. If you're looking at the sun as it goes through the constellations, it's not always in alignment with the signs. Because if you look at, for example, Pisces is a very long constellation. Aries is a very short constellation. So it will passage at different times through the constellations. However, it will passage equally through the signs, because again, it's based upon the equinox and the tropics, which is the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. And I believe it or not, I didn't intend to discuss this in this video. I was kind of being shown that and inspired to really talk upon this, to give us a little bit of a further understanding, which was in part what I was referring to Pluto transiting the sign of Aquarius, how sometimes I feel like we've been operating on half a deck. And I do believe that we are going to be given greater information so that we can be of greater service to humanity. So much I feel has been kept from the masses regarding how all of this really works, but I do believe that is going to be shifting and changing, especially with in the areas of science. I do believe that, and we metaphysically we understand that science and spirituality are not separate. And the realization, the awareness, the heightened awareness of that understanding began in the early 2000s with the planets Uranus and Neptune, when they were transiting what is known as being, or rather, they were in what is known as being in mutual reception to one another, where they were each transiting the sign that the other ruled. Uranus was transiting in the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. Neptune was transiting the sign of Aquarius, which was ruled by Uranus. That really brought about the heightened understanding that really science and spirituality, they're not separate. And there was a film at that time it was called, and I think it's still available, What the Bleep Do We Know? That really elaborated on the subject of science and spirituality not being separate from one another. And Pluto transiting, moving into the sign of Aquarius, will intensify this understanding. You know, many false teachings, indoctrinations, they're all going to dissolve. I do understand that there's been an abundance of misinformation that has kept every one of us in a compromised state of really understanding the power of our being and the knowing of the potential of who we really are. That's all going to shift and change even more so as we go through these times. That being said, I cannot emphasize enough as we endure and weather these winds of change, which may be certainly intensified in these coming times. Remain grounded. Be grateful for all the blessings that are already surrounded you. Anchor yourself with the energy of the earth. Clear your energy every day and allow yourself to just be in a place of love and share and bring that love wherever it is that you might be. Many blessings. Namaste. Remain in the light and always in a place of love. Namaste.